afternoon. My name is Anna Karras.
And I'm Irene Johnson.
And we are coming to you live from the Collier County Public Library to discuss small things like these. You want to hold up the book, Irene?
Sure. So it's Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan,
who is an Irish author. And it's a Christmas story. And I know that it's not Christmas time, but I like this book, so that's why I picked it. Let's see. So here's a picture of Claire Keegan and the title, the cover of the book. So yeah, I picked this book because I read it last November, and it's a short book. It's almost a novella. It's so short, but it's set in not in Dublin, but in Ireland, in like a small town in Ireland in 1985. And it is told from the point of view of Bill Furlong, who is a man who delivers coal and wood to the community around him so people can heat their homes. And I don't know how much we can talk about this book without giving everything away.
I think it's going to have to be a spoiler moment.
If you haven't read the book yet and you still want to,
it's definitely worth the read.
Yes, it definitely is.
This book, when she said it's short, we're talking 116 pages, and it's a little book. Mm-hmm. So it's really worth reading, and it packs a pretty big punch for 116 pages.
It does indeed. But we are going to tell you what happens in the book in this Facebook Live event, so be ready. So Bill goes about his job. Christmas is coming. He's got a family. He's got a wife and 5 daughters. 5 daughters.
Yes.
They're a good Catholic family. Good Catholic family. And they're all getting ready for Christmas. You know, they're doing their usual traditions. They're baking the Christmas cake. They're going to see the Nativity. They're going to Mass. They're doing all sorts of things that people do to get ready for Christmas. And during the day, he's making his deliveries. And he goes to the convent at the top of the hill in town, and he delivers a load of coal into their coal bin. And he makes a horrifying discovery. Irene, why don't you tell us what he found?
So he basically opens what would be not a whole lot more than a shack.
Yeah.
And when he opens it up, there's a young girl inside, and she's in rags, and she's freezing, and she's basically dirty and
Barefoot,
and she's surrounded by her own excrement because she's been left in there for quite a period of time.
She's been locked in there for a while.
And the first thing that she says to him that makes coherent sense is, "Where's my baby?"
Yes. So we have a young woman who got pregnant out of wedlock, and the nuns took her in. She gave birth, they gave the baby up for adoption, and they locked her up to punish her.
And so that is basically the crux of the story.
Yes.
The big pieces of the story.
Right. And the whole question is, what is Bill going to do? Is he going to take everybody's advice and mind his own business? Or is he going to stand up and do what is the right thing? And that is help this girl.
And even before he meets the girl in the very beginning of the book, you notice that he starts pondering questions of life.
Right.
Is there something bigger than this?
Is there something better than this?
Is there something more than us just making a Christmas cake every year with my 5 daughters? And he's content in the sense that he really loves his family. He's definitely in love with his family, and he cares about that. But he keeps having these feelings of there's something more to life than what I'm doing, even before he opens this can of worms with this young lady.
Right. So let's go to the questions. The first one, early in the novel, Furlong reflects on the movements of his family as they prepare for Christmas dinner. Always it was the same. They carried mechanically on without pause to the next job at hand. What would life be like, he wondered, if they were given time to think and reflect over things? So how do the events that follow echo this meditation from Furlong? And you kind of just answered that question.
I did. I think that was really a struggle with him, in that he was going day to day, minute by minute. They were moving on with life. The girls went to school. The girls had Christmas. They did their traditions. As soon as they were done with one tradition, they were doing another tradition. And it was just like, as soon as somebody finished cleaning this, they were doing this. But there was no time where you would sit down and go, what is life about? What is going on? What is happening? And I think a couple times his wife is like, what's going on with you? Because he starts to really ponder some of these questions.
And he gets moody.
He does.
Yes.
He definitely gets moody. And his wife notices.
Yes.
What was her name again? Oh, I can't remember now. Eileen.
Eileen. Thank you.
It's Irene. It's Eileen.
It's not Irene. It's Eileen.
Yes.
And the thing that you have to remember too about Ireland in the 80s is that the economy was very shaky. Everyone who had a job was in danger of losing that job and being destitute. So people were living from paycheck to paycheck. And if you were lucky enough to have a job, you had to really hold on to that job. Otherwise, you would be basically on the dole and destitute. So, there were people that fell into that type of thinking, I think, where, I have to be grateful for what I have because there are so many other people that are so much worse off than I am.
And even it's reflected in the way he treats his employees.
Yes.
So he owns this business, and he has multiple employees who work for him, and he's very good to them. But even then, it's very routine. At Christmas Eve, they go basically to a place where this lady fixes them food, and she makes a big, huge meal for them, and he pays for the whole thing, and they have a really good time.
Yep.
And then he tips her very well. And she's one of the people that he actually kind of talks to about, not exactly what's going on with the church, but kind of what's happening. And she basically says, don't go there. Bad idea.
Okay, next question. So, Furlong, Bill, provides for his family what he lacked as a child. Still, they are not rich. Why do you think Claire Keegan chose this man for her protagonist? What special insight do you think Furlong has that encourages his decision to return to the coal shed? Well, one thing we haven't mentioned about Bill is his childhood, and that he himself is the child of an unwed mother. Now, he was very, very lucky in that he found, his mother found a job that would take her in, even though she did not name the father of her baby, nor was she married. She had a very nice lady who lived on an estate outside of the town where Bill now lives, and they just overlooked it. He laid in a basket in the kitchen while his mother was doing work when he was a little boy, and he played on the estate when he was a kid, and he grew up. But his mother never had a lot of money. In fact, she was very poor. So I think the fact that he can now provide for his family gives him a sense of worth, a sense of, a purpose in life. Maybe it's not the one that he ultimately dreamed of, but it is something.
I think he's also important to this role, and why she picked him was because he did have this history where it is so close to the story.
Yes.
And that his mother, actually gave birth to him, and he was like spit upon in school. Right. Although he was treated very well at home, he was treated terribly at school.
That's right.
He was basically called terrible names. He was picked on. They just didn't treat him well at all because he didn't have a father and he was poor.
Right.
And so he really did go through a little bit of that struggle, maybe not as bad, obviously, as this young girl, but you have to ask the question, whoa, but what if it was me? What would have become of me?
What would have?
Would it have been a better life because I would have been adopted out? Or would it have been a worse life? And what would have become of my mother, who I love dearly? So all those questions kind of ponder in your mind because of the role that she puts him in.
Good answer.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, yes. Question 3. Small things like these occurs in just a few short weeks. Why do you think Claire Keegan chose to make the narrative so compact? How does the short sprint towards Christmas add to the climax of the novel? Well, I think Christmas, as the time of year of goodwill towards men and peace and love, juxtaposes against the foul treatment that this young woman receives at the convent, where you would think that the nuns themselves would be more forgiving or
kind,
sympathetic towards her plight. I think that her making it so short really packs it in there and puts it in your face so you can't ignore it.
And one part of the story that, you know, it's packed in here, but there's a lot. You know, he has a meeting with the Mother Superior at one point in this story when he brings the girl back. And she basically says, oh my goodness, how could she have gotten locked in there? Oh my goodness, let's get her clothes and let's get her food. And basically while he's there, he's watching this while she's being treated wonderfully. And the one thing that he doesn't ask is, where's her baby? And that really tugs on his mind. And I mean, so you look at this little tiny book and you have some really hardships in there that make you ache for this man and for this little girl.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Question 4. After first meeting Sarah, Furlong sits alone in his truck. Sarah is the woman in the coal bin. He sits alone in his truck before going, like a hypocrite, to Mass. As the author note indicates, the Magdalen laundries where Sarah lives were funded by both the Irish state and the Catholic Church. What role does religion play in this novel? And that is a really loaded question, but one that we will attempt to answer. The Magdalen laundries are something that, like they said, the Catholic Church and the state ran them. They were basically a place that were centered in convents. Women that gave birth out of wedlock, that had bad reputations.
Nowhere else to go.
They were sent there, and they were basically worked fingers to the bone in these laundries, and were basically slaves.
And you're like, well, why didn't she leave? Well, on top of all of the walls was glass.
Yes, they were basically captives.
And all the locks, he noticed while he was in there, locked from the outside. So there was no way to unlock the door and leave. They were literally trapped inside of this place, and they weren't allowed to leave.
Right.
And besides what the church gave them, which was very minimal, that is all they were, that's all that they had. That's all they were obliged to have in life.
Did you get a chance to see the movie?
I didn't see the movie.
Okay, there is a movie called The Magdalen Sisters, I think.
Yes.
And we do have it in the Collier County Public Library video collection. And it is about the Magdalen laundries. So if you're interested at all, I highly recommend the movie. It was really well done. It was not a documentary, it was a feature film. So
I think the church played huge part in this, and it shows the disgusting part of the church where there was bribery, there was under the table handlings, it was just like everything that you could think of. They were kind of like the mob, for lack of a better way to put it, in a way. With these girls, they were like the first human traffickers. I mean, they were basically trafficking these girls to get as much work out of them as possible.
Yeah. And taking their babies and selling them, adopting them out, and basically selling them and making money on it.
Yes.
Yeah. Not pretty. No. Question 5. In many ways, Eileen balances William Furlong. You're soft-hearted is all, giving away what changes in your pocket, she says to him in bed the night he returns from the Magdalen laundries. Discuss her reaction to Furlong's prolonged anxiety. Do you agree with her idea that they ought to just soldier on?
So she is definitely the opposite of him. But she is also in that spirit. She has 5 girls. She has 5 girls that are a breath away of not being able to be married, to find a home,
to have children
of their own, to find good mates. And you cross the church, you're in trouble, and you're at the point where, quite frankly, your girls may not be allowed to go to the Catholic school anymore.
Oh,
and they don't go to that Catholic school anymore. They're pretty much tainted.
Yeah.
And, nobody would want to marry them.
Right.
So she's looking out from the perspective of her family, and that is what's most important to her. And I don't know, as a mother, that's necessarily a bad thing. But at the same time, he's looking at the bigger picture.
Right. She's being very mama bear, and he's being more, I guess, I wouldn't say global in his perspective, but definitely on a larger scale.
And part of that, I think, too, is that he was the man, he made the money, and he was never home. He was working, and she was home with those girls and taking care of them and doing everything around the house and being the matriarch at home. And he came home at night and basically got fed and would spend a little bit time with the family, go to bed, and then he was up working again. So, you know, his global perspective was much bigger than hers.
Of course, because she was very insulated.
Yes.
You know, she had her children, and that was pretty much it. That was her life, her world. And to see that be destroyed would be just, I mean, the worst thing that could have happened to her.
But you kind of get a little angry at her, even about small things. There's a small story in the book where he gives some change basically to a man who is basically drinks too much, but he has a son who's younger, and he just gives him this change in his pocket to help them out and gives him a ride somewhere. And she says, well, you're just too tender-hearted. And then you have to wonder, you know, where's the balance? Where's the balance of being tender-hearted and taking care of your family, and what's the middle ground?
Yeah.
Because it's a tough question.
Yep. The question is, what would you do if the right thing to do is the hard thing to do? Are you going to do the right thing, or are you going to do the easy thing?
Or is what you're perceiving the right thing, taking care of the girl, the right thing at all? Because are you jeopardizing your family?
Yep.
And is that the right thing?
Mind-blowing.
So the book itself kind of made me a little frustrated because it leaves you in that.
He saves the girl, but we don't know what happens.
He comes to basically the doorstep of his house, and that's the end of it.
The end of
you
the
don't
book.
know how Eileen's gonna deal with it, the girls are gonna deal with it, the church is gonna deal with it, his business, how it's gonna suffer.
But he feels liberated.
He does.
In that moment.
He does. And I don't know, I see both perspectives, because I feel for Eileen too, because she's taken all this time to build that family and take care of those children. And do you save one and lose 5?
Hard questions, man.
But it is definitely a great book.
It'll make you think.
It'll make you think,
Yeah.
and it'll make you ponder. And I don't even know if I'm ready to answer that question yet, because I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. It's beautifully written as well.
Yes.
Claire Keegan has written not very many things. She's written another, I think, a collection of short stories, and maybe 2 collections of short stories, but this is her first novel. So, yep, Irish writer from, I want to say Killarney or Kilkenny or something that starts with a K. And there are many of those in Ireland. So for all of those out there that are Irish, I apologize for my ignorance. But anyway, next week, on Tuesday, April 26th, we are going to be discussing this in a Zoom call. So if you would like to join us for that,
Please do.
We would be more than happy to see your face on screen. You just have to send an email to my email address up there, which is anna.karras, K-A-R-R-A-S, at colliercountyfl.gov. And I will send you an email invitation invite. You just have to click on the link and you'll get set up on your computer. And there will be a bunch of us there, and we will talk about the book in detail.
We would love to see you.
Yep. So thank you so much for watching us today, and we'll be back next month with a different book.
I don't think we've chosen yet.
Nope, not yet, but we'll let you know next week.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.